The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello. Hello, and welcome to HDSA's Caregiver's Corner webinar series. Today we're going to hear from Seth J. Meyer, and he's going to be talking about building your local care team. Before I invite Seth to begin, I'm going to go over how to ask a question, as well as how to access this webinar after broadcast. You can pose all of your questions during the webinar. However, Seth will be answering them after his formal presentation. To send a question, go to the control panel that you see boxed on the right-hand side of your screen, type in your question, and hit send. You can view this webinar again approximately 1 week after broadcast on the HDSA National website. To access the presentation, go to the Caregiver's Corner section, which is hdsA.org/ccorner. You'll also be able to download a copy of past presentations. You can find HDSA's Lunch and Learn webinars at hdsa.org/ll. And if you want to suggest topics for future webinars, you can contact me, Jane Kogan, at J as in Jane, Kogan @hdsa.org. And we also have a really exciting webinar coming up on Wednesday, June 4th at noon, when Janet Williams will be discussing talking with kids about Huntington's disease. And now I'm really excited to turn it over to Seth J. Meyer. Seth is HDSA's Community Services and Resource Development Manager. He runs the HDSA National Helpline and also liaises extensively with our support group leaders, social workers, as well as HC clinics across the country. Before coming to HDSA, Seth was a healthcare integrator at New Alternatives for Children, where he worked with families and children in the foster care system. Seth has also worked at the ARC of Monroe County and interned at SPEGS, as well as the Jewish Community Relations Council of New York. Sorry about that. Seth received his bachelor's from the University of Rochester and his master's of science in social work from the Columbia University School of Social Work. And now I'm very excited to turn it over to Seth.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. So we're going to talk today about building your local care team. So during this webinar, we're going to answer the questions, what is a care team? How can one start finding members of a local care team? And what resources are available to my care team? So what is a care team? Why are we here today talking about this? So every person with Huntington's disease requires some sort of interdisciplinary team to work together to provide care not just for the person with HD, but also the caregiver. Not every member of the care team is going to be required every day of the week or at every stage of the disease. Instead, it's based on what symptoms are being presented and what's really best at that time. Things change, and as things change, the needs of the care team will change with that. The care team is generally a mixture of professionals, volunteers, and loved ones. The most important thing is that you find someone you click with. If you find someone who doesn't know much about Huntington's disease, that's fine. We can help by providing education and information for professionals. So this is what the front page of the HDSA website looks like. And here it says find a center of excellence. Our 21 HDSA centers of excellences consist of care teams that work together to help provide support and information. Now, not everyone lives in a state with a center of excellence, but I always recommend starting with the center of excellence and asking who they know. The professionals there may know someone local who might be useful. So finding a professional. every person with Huntington's disease is unique, but also every person is unique. My doctor is, my primary care physician, is very brusque, doesn't mince words, and doesn't bother with formalities. And my best friend would hate her. It doesn't matter that she happens to be an excellent doctor. My best friend really appreciates having that small talk in the beginning. I really don't care, and I just like it to get right to the point. Even though we're best friends, we do not click with the same primary care physician. So it's important to, it doesn't matter how good a professional is, it doesn't matter how highly recommended the professional is. The most important thing is that you click with the professional. And on the other side, if you don't click with the professional, it doesn't mean that that professional may not be a good professional. It just means that you or the person with Huntington's disease just didn't click with that particular person. Our HDSA social workers can talk about different professionals they've worked with in the past who have either worked with other families with Huntington's disease or have presented at educational days, have some experience with Huntington's disease, or someone that they've liked. So if you go to our Living with HD section, under Community Services, you can find over here our social workers. And it has divided on a map all of the social workers, so you can just click on your state. Or you can visit www.hdsa.org/SW to find your local HDSA social worker. Now over here, I've also pointed out, right under the social workers, is the medical resources and physicians listing. This is a list of doctors who have either taken our CEU course or requested our physician's guide and have said they would like to be added onto the national website. So they are doctors who have some knowledge of Huntington's disease, although the knowledge does vary from doctor to doctor. This list is just available for informational purposes only, but might also be an interesting starting point for certain medical professionals. So the HD Care Team. This is by no means a comprehensive list, but what we're going to do is we're going to talk about a group of professionals that you may work with and discuss briefly what they do and explore ways that you can find them. So first, the speech and language pathologist. Speech and language pathologists, sorry, I always have trouble saying that, or SLPs, provide help in two ways. As HD progresses due to the movement disorder, it becomes more difficult to swallow, and swallowing issues do occur. An SLP can help provide a swallowing test and then make recommendations on what kind of foods and liquids a person can and cannot eat and drink. They can also provide information on communication devices. As the symptoms progress, it becomes harder to make sounds and talk. So an SLP can talk about what communication devices might work best based on insurance and what the person with HD is really able to do and not to do. So how do you find your local SLP? The American Speech and Hearing Association has a great website, www.asha.org/findpro. Right over here. You just click on there, and search by city or state, and you can find a wide range of SLPs in your area. And then you can talk to them, find out what your insurance covers, and see really who works best for you and your family. Physical therapy. Physical therapy can be utilized in a variety of different ways. In the earlier stages, exercises can sometimes help manage balance and gait, and later on it can also promote coordination and ambulatory skills. Sometimes a person with HD just may be given a list of exercises to do that might be recommended, or they may see a physical therapist more regularly based on the availability of a PT in your area as well as the availability under insurance. The American Physical Therapy Association has a great website called Move Forward, and it really talks about different ways to utilize physical therapy. And right over here on Move Forward's website, they have a great Find a PT, there we go, link. All you need to do is click over there on moveforwardpt.com, the website right over here, and see who is in your area. And then you can talk to them about insurance. Generally speaking, most physical therapists, although they may not have experience in Huntington's disease itself, they would still have experience somewhat with chorea and dystonia and can help in some manner. Occupational therapy. Occupational therapy provides help in maintaining quality of life for a person with Huntington's disease. They can make recommendations on modifications for the physical or cognitive symptoms associated with HD, including changes that may need to be made around the house due to the movement disorder associated with Huntington's disease, as well as suggestions on different types of utensils that would be useful as the movement disorder and the fine motor skills deteriorate. So occupational therapy is not, for Huntington's disease, may not be something you go to all the time, but would generally be an every so often thing as needed as things progress. And you can go to healthgrades.com and you can search for occupational therapists. They have a lot of information as well as ratings. I do want to caution about ratings. A lot of websites now rate, and it's a double-edged sword. On the one hand, it's great that we can see what other people are saying and how other people feel about different professionals. On the other hand, though, we don't know where these professionals are coming, where these people who are rating these professionals are coming from. I always say take ratings with a grain of salt. You don't, if there's one 2-star rating and 20 5-star ratings, the person with the 2-star ratings may not have been happy, they just may not have clicked. But definitely don't take ratings as the end-all be-all because we don't know the backstory behind all of them. And also people tend to go in and rate more when they're more upset. People who are content don't always go in and rate the professionals that they work with. Primary care physician. I hear again and again and again that people have their neurologist, everything else in place, but they don't have their primary care physician. Huntington's disease does not happen in a vacuum. And everyone should have a primary care physician to go to for additional issues, whether it's getting a flu shot or if you have diabetes, if you have asthma. All of these issues are things that you really need to go to your local primary care physician. It's also good to have a primary care physician who can help with titration of medications and follow-up as needed. Oftentimes, your primary care physician can connect with the neurologist to make sure that they're coordinating the care so there are no medication issues. I cannot emphasize how important it is to have a primary care physician in your area that you can go to, especially if your neurologist is really far away. So I had mentioned earlier that we have that section on our website with a lot of doctors. That's a good place to look for primary care physicians. Also, talk to your insurance company. I know for me, I changed insurances and I forgot to list my primary care physician. So my insurance company just gave me one. They have a list of all the primary care physicians that will accept your insurance, and it's a good place to start. Also, ask your friends. I found my primary care physician through a former colleague of mine. Talk to your friends, especially ones that you think, not that you're closest to, but ones that you think you would like their doctor because of their personality. So primary care is amazingly important, and I cannot emphasize it enough. Psychiatrist. So although Huntington's disease has often been associated with the movement disorder, the psychiatric disorder itself can be more debilitating for a person with HD as well as the family. It can also be much more traumatic. The psychiatrist can work with the person with HD to prescribe medications to manage certain symptoms of Huntington's disease, certain psychiatric symptoms, of Huntington's disease. Now there are, just like a primary care physician, there are many, and actually I want to emphasize, primary care physician, a psychiatrist is a physician who can write prescriptions, and we'll get to a psychologist later to discuss what they do and how to find one of them. So there are many websites to find a psychiatrist. Again, a lot of them rate psychiatrists, so be careful. But the best way is to talk to your local doctor, talk to your local primary care physician, talk to your local neurologist, and get a recommendation from them. Especially if you have an HD center that's within your state. The neurologist may know of a psychiatrist in your area who they've worked with in the past, who they really like. You can also ask your friends, your neighbors, anyone who you feel comfortable with. With everything else, but especially with a psychiatrist and a psychologist and a primary care physician, it really is important to find someone that you click with, because these are going to really be people you meet with over and over again. Now, we have a lot of great information for psychiatrists to help with treatment on Huntington's disease. So here we are back again on the HDSA website. And now we're going up here to this For Professional section. So right now we only have 3 sections under For Professionals. One is for physicians, one is for social workers, and one is for genetic counselors. But as time goes on, we hope to expand it and really provide as much information as possible to a variety of professionals. Under the For Professionals, for physicians, you will find our free CME course, which is a 10-part continuing education course for doctors and psychiatrists, where they can earn CMEs, which are required for the licensures. They'll learn information about how to order a physician's guide, and they'll also learn about our cycling program, which provides emergency psychiatric information to psychiatrists, and as well as PCPs that they can just email that we run. So if you do have a psychiatrist, a primary care physician, even a neurologist who you like who doesn't know about Huntington's disease, send them right over here to hdsa.org and these For Professional things, this For Professional section of our website. It's amazingly popular, and the doctors really appreciate getting those free CEUs. So a registered dietitian or a registered dietitian nutritionist, an RD or an RDN. So an RDN, a registered dietitian nutritionist, is a dietitian who has more of a focus on nutrition. You can really go with an RD or an RDN. But over the course of Huntington's disease, nutritional needs change for a lot of different reasons. People with HD will lose the ability to swallow liquids and solid foods, which will lead to choking. And people with HD generally will require significantly more calories, sometimes 2 to 3 times more than the daily recommended caloric intake. So once you go to the speech and language pathologist, you have the swallowing test. You can then talk to a registered an RD to find out what foods you can eat based on how the person with Huntington's disease is swallowing and the caloric intake and nutritional needs, and how can it be made more enjoyable. Food should be something that we enjoy, and eating should be something we enjoy. So we really want to emphasize enjoyable eating, what's good and what is not good to eat. An RD and an RDN would be seen as needed as opposed to consistently, but they will be able to provide a lot of really great resources and information as the disease progresses, as the swallowing issues progress. So this is eatright.org, and this is a really great website about nutrition. And I've circled 2 things. First, I've circled this section for the public. It has a lot of great information on diet and nutrition and health. I really, really recommend everyone look at this and get an idea. It's a really great website. You can see that I did this from a while ago. I just had to pass over. And then over here, you can find a registered dietitian in your area. You may have to travel a little bit, but find a registered dietitian. It's right over there at www.eatright.org. So visit this website and see who you can find. A psychologist. So we talked about the psychiatrist earlier, who can provide psychiatric medication management. Now, the psychologist can also help a family manage psychiatric symptoms in a different way by encouraging environmental changes, talking about what the issues is, as well as working with the person with HD to manage their anger and irritability as possible and as needed. Psychologists can also help provide a safety plan and interventions when aggressive behavior occurs to help manage it. As with psychiatrist, I recommend talking with neighbors and doctors. There are a lot of different websites, which is why I didn't list just one. But you really do need to find someone who you, as well as the person with Huntington's disease, really feels comfortable with. Because you guys are going to do a lot of really intense work. You're going to work to make everyone's quality of life better, but it's a lot of intense work. You want someone who you feel comfortable taking that journey with. Dentist. So I always hear that dental care is one of the most difficult things to find, and it really is. You can't just go to your local dentist because the movement disorder, the psychiatric disorder, the cognitive disorder, all of these really preclude just going to your regular dentist. But dental care is very important. Without taking care of your teeth, it can lead to issues and a lot of pain as well in the mouth. So Dental Life Network, dentallifeline.org, can sometimes provide free dental care with experienced dentists for people with medical conditions. That said, there's often a wait list from a couple of months to a couple of years. And in certain counties and areas, they've actually closed off the wait list because it's just gotten too long. It's something to consider, but be prepared for a wait. But they do have a lot of great dentists who volunteer their time to help provide dental care. Organizations such as the ARC and the AHRC are also a great place to contact, and every county should have their own version of the ARC or the AHRC. And they may be able to recommend a local dentist that they use. Sometimes people with HD do need to go under anesthesia to get appropriate dental care. And not every dentist is really equipped to provide that. So definitely talking with the ARC and the AHRC is a really good first step. There are some clinics as well that are able to provide dental care. So definitely talk with the social workers as well as your center of excellence. Hospice Team. I get a lot of questions about hospice, including when to start hospice and does hospice mean we've given up? It doesn't. Hospice is end-of-life care, and it's really, really important end-of-life care. Hospice can be utilized to make sure that your loved one is comfortable, and they can also provide a lot of support. I often hear from families that they wish they had started hospice earlier because it was just so wonderful. And some people even plateau a little bit when they're in hospice because of some of the services that open up. And every hospice agency is a little bit different on what services they have. But just the type of care they receive in home actually helps out a little bit. So some people will plateau for a brief, finite period of time. Hospice is generally done when the person is written to have 6 months or less to live. That said, because of the nature of Huntington's disease and the unpredictability of it, sometimes people are in hospice for a year or 2 years, and it just keeps getting renewed. So I recommend having the discussion about hospice with your doctor to see when it might be appropriate. Also with hospice, you want to make sure you get early conversations with the person with HD about what they want and what they don't want. Do they want a feeding tube? What do they want at the end of their life? Now, we have a book which I cannot recommend highly enough called Advanced Directives as part of our Family Guide series. You can order it for free on the HDSA website. And it is a really wonderful look at not just advanced directives in general, but also things to consider specifically with Huntington's disease. Because you really want to make sure that everything is set up and legally binding when the person with Huntington's disease can make cognitive decisions. And everyone should have their own advanced directives and healthcare proxies, and that's my soapbox. So how do you find a local hospice organization? Some areas have a lot of options, some areas not as much. The National Hospice and Palliative Care Organization does have a listing of hospice agencies, and they've been vetted. So they, generally speaking, do a pretty good job of making sure that whomever they have is pretty good. So if you go to resources over here on the nhpco.org website, over here it says find a care provider. You just click there, put in your state. Many hospice agencies are either statewide or cover several counties. If you're having to decide between more than one hospice agency, caringinfo.org, which has a lot of really great documents and it's a wonderful website, I definitely recommend it, has a really good document called Choosing Quality Hospice for You and Your Loved One. It has about a 4-page questionnaire, and you can use this when you're looking at hospices, to really to make sure that the hospice agency is providing everything that you want and that your family needs, and it's comfortable for you. So once you're going through a hospice stage, I really recommend that. There's a lot of really good documents here as well. Consumer's Guide to Selecting Hospice. What is hospice, if you want to go a little bit more in depth. So I definitely recommend visiting caringinfo.org, but definitely the Choosing a Quality Hospice is a document you should have when you're looking at hospice agencies. Family and friends. We've talked a lot about these professionals, but a very important part of your support is your family and friends. Support from family and friends can help you manage caregiving or having a chronic condition. If you want, socially, local chapters provide the opportunity to meet up with people and families in a more social manner. Our chapters have a lot of social and fundraising events that are really wonderful. And if you go to hdsa.org, you can just see in the front page, it says Find Your Local Chapter. So I definitely recommend visiting that and getting involved there. Support groups are also very important and very useful. Many studies show that people who attend support groups feel more comfortable and confident in managing and caregiving for a chronic condition. I always say when you go to a support group, give it 3 times. First time you go there is going to be incredibly uncomfortable, especially if you never really talk about Huntington's disease, you've never really been around it. It's going to be very difficult. The second time you'll start getting used to it. And third time you'll really know if that particular support group is right for you. HDSA has over 170 support groups around the country, and we're adding more constantly. So visit hdsa.org control my mouse today. Visit hdsa.org/SG, and that will take you to a map, and you can find your local support group. Or if you don't have a support group in your area and you would like to start one, visit hdsa.org/SG-app. And I will actually be the one contacting you, and we can discuss what is the process of building a support group. We take great pride in our support group, and we take great care, because these are some of the most important resources for a caregiver or a person with Huntington's disease. I also recommend joining our HDSA email list. Again, if you go to hdsa.org, there's a button on top that says Sign Up. And you can sign up to receive email updates both nationally as well as locally, including when we have new support groups in your area. So resources. So we're back to the HDSA website. Other resources. Other resources is kind of our potpourri of what's available. And you've got a map there, and you click on your state, and you can see what we have built up. Now, on there is also a link for online resources, and those are resources that are more nationwide. So you can also, and that's under other resources. So you can just click there and visit a lot of online resources and see what's right for you. As Jane said at the beginning of this webinar, you can view past Caregiver Corner webinars, and I definitely recommend them. So, and these are a few that are really more geared towards what we've discussed. You have Team Management in Huntington's Disease by Dr. Martha Nance, PTOT and HD by Sue Imbriglio, Gait and Balance by Deb Kegelmeyer, Dr. Sandra Kostek, and Clunes, Safety in the Home by Erica Umbach, Laura Wilkinson, John Zanker, and Long-Term Care in Huntington's Disease. I added that on not just because I'm also the one who did that, but because we didn't really talk about long-term care. There's too much there to really do. So I recommend just watching that webinar about the different types of long-term care and finding different types of long-term care in your community. With Team Management in Huntington's Disease, Dr. Martha Nance does a really great job in going more in depth in how the team can work together. And then the PTOT, Gait and Balance, and Safety in the Home are really great, not just for the caregivers, but also for the professionals. I get a lot of professionals on these webinars who really find the information they need there. And although they are caregiver-focused, professionals really get a lot of good information. We also have some great HDSA publications. Go to hdsa.org/publications, or you can contact myself or Anita Mark Paul. You can call us at 212-242-1968, and I'm also going to give you my email address at the end of this presentation to order any publications that you might want or that your professionals might want. A Caregiver's Guide to Communicating with Healthcare Providers. It's a great way to talk and figure out what to say and how to present stuff. This was given to us because a lot of families felt uncomfortable, didn't know how to reach out to healthcare providers. Caregiver's Guide to HD we did in association with an organization called We Move about 2 years ago. Physical and Occupational Therapy for HD and Nutritional and HD are both part of our Family Guide series. A lot of really great information both for people with HD, caregivers, and professionals. Understanding Behavior. Now that's going to be coming out soon, and this is going to be a really great book. It's an update from a book by Jane Paulson. I think it was about 10 years ago, so it's definitely time for an update. If you join our HDSA email list, you'll get an email informing you of when Understanding Behavior will be available. But that's a really great book for any psychiatrist or psychologist to understand what behaviors are normal for Huntington's disease. We Are HDSA is the support group newsletter, and The Marker is our national magazine. And we have had a lot of really good articles, and they're archived under the HDSA Article Connect, which if you go to publications, you'll see it on the left. The HDSA Article Connect has all of our articles sorted by type, so it's really easy to navigate. And lastly, every year at our annual convention, we're able to live stream 1 or 2 presentations. This past year, thanks to a grant from Lundac, we were actually able to make a DVD of the 2013 annual convention. And we still have some of them available. So you can watch them on the website, or you can order for free a copy of our DVD of the 2013 annual convention of all the programs that were live streamed. It will not be every workshop, but it still is a wonderful thing to have and to watch. and to give to the professionals who you're working with. So lastly, that's me. This is the way you can contact me. My email address is smeyer@hdsa.org. I can also be reached at 888-HDSA-506. Now, if I'm not in the office on those rare occasions I'm actually on vacation or I'm out sick, there's another social worker who's answering the HDSA helpline. So you'll, as long as you call between Monday and Friday between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you'll have someone who can respond within one business day. So, and that's it. I'm open to questions. And the first one is, can I please say the name of the book again? I don't know. Whomever asked if I could say the name of the book again, if you can just specify specifically the name of the book, but oh, the book regarding hospice care. Thank you very much. Sure, let me go back to that slide. Here we go. Not a book. It's what I wanted. It's not a book. It's a 4-page document about hospice, and it's over here, Choosing Quality Hospice for You and Your Loved One. And you can find it at caringinfo.org. So caringinfo.org has a lot of amazing resources, a lot of great publications about caregiving, and they look at really end-of-life palliative care. They have actually advanced directives as well. If you have some time, I recommend playing around with the website and seeing what might be useful for you. But this is what I was talking about, choosing quality hospice for you and your loved one. And also, what is hospice, and a consumer's guide to selecting a hospice program. So we have some time for questions. I kind of ran through it, and the slides will be available if anyone wants them. I know I went over a lot of websites and a lot of information, so they will definitely be, you can definitely request a copy of them. And I'll just be here with questions. And to ask a question, just to remind you, on your panel, if the panel is gone, just hit on the the red arrow button. Just go into questions and click questions. So yeah, I just got a question if a little bit more about the Article Connect, because I mentioned that. So the Article Connect, which I can just show you quickly. Hold on. If you go to hdsa.org/applications, over here you have the HDSA Article Connect. It's divided up by topics, so you can really find what is best for you, including the behavioral disorder, caregiving, cognitive disorder, physical or occupational therapy. And we're constantly updating this, so definitely recommend visiting it maybe once a year if you don't get the marker over your HDSA, and seeing kind of what's available and what might be useful for you or for the professionals that you're working with. All right, so here's a question of where do I start for finding resources for a person who's 100% dependent on their caregiver. You can always contact me to ask me as well, and we can connect you with your local resource, or you can go right to your HDSA social worker. I would recommend, in the case of this person who is 100% dependent on their caregiver, to get someone to the home to evaluate what type of care they can receive. I would start with the doctor to recommend some in-home care programs. You can talk to your doctor to see what kind of care might be required, and then looking into what in-home care programs might be available. You can also contact your health insurance provider to find what in-home care, how much in-home care is covered. In-home care might be provided by certain types of health insurance, depending on what you have. It will also be covered for a certain period of time if you have long-term care insurance. Keep in mind, long-term care insurance only covers between 3 and 6 years, and only a certain amount of either in-home care or long-term care. And once that money is gone, and once those years are gone, it's gone. So you have to kind of choose wisely, but if you do have it, it might be useful. All right. So for hospice, because it has, hospice can come from a family physician. And the reason sometimes you'll see it more from the neurologist is because the neurologist who knows Huntington's disease might be more aware of when to start calling hospice, but you can certainly talk to your family care physician. I do apologize. The trouble of doing a webinar in New York is you have that. So you can definitely talk to your primary care physician about hospice and about what local hospices might be available and which ones they recommend. So I get a question. My husband doesn't want to talk about hospice and feeding tubes, etc. Talking about late stages of Huntington's disease, end-of-life care, is difficult. And once you take, even just taking Huntington's disease out of it, it's always very difficult to talk about end-of-life care. A lot of people really don't want to discuss it. People are scared to think about it. Sometimes what we do, what I recommend, and one thing my family did is actually, we all did all of our healthcare proxies, living wills, etc. together. We had a little party, and we all got together. We had a friend come over who's a notary public, and a friend come over who's a lawyer, and we had everything together, and we made sure that everything was official. And no food or alcohol until we signed everything, and we made all of our decisions, which we came in kind of knowing. So sometimes doing it as a group may help in not making a person with HD feel like you're focusing on just them. And sometimes it's just small conversations every so often. It's not something anyone likes to talk about, but just saying, you know, how do you feel about a feeding tube? And if he doesn't really want to talk about it, just bring it up again every so often, as long as it doesn't create any sort of unsettling behaviors. Because these are really important topics to discuss. And remind him also, if he doesn't make that decision, you as the caregiver are going to end up being the one who's going to have to make that decision as their power of attorney, whether or not they receive a feeding tube. And so just every so often bringing it up, and sometimes bringing it up in a group. And I definitely recommend our Advanced Directives book as well, because that will, again, bring up what to think about specifically with HD, but there's no reason that everyone in their Advanced Directives and living wills can't mention feeding tubes and can't mention how they want to live and what they want. And the decision can certainly be, and someone just said, can the decision be to not have feeding tube? Certainly, the decision can be to not have a feeding tube. Some people decide that that's not what they want. I always recommend find out the best information. Talk to a speech and language pathologist about a feeding tube, and I did forget to mention that they can talk to you about a feeding tube. They can explain what it is, what the different kinds of feeding tubes are, and what that means, because feeding tube doesn't always mean an end to actually eating. Feeding tubes is provided for a variety of reasons, and sometimes people can have feeding tubes and still eat. So definitely a person can decide they don't want a feeding tube. That is their decision. But it is always best to know what their decision is going to be and what they are going to want, or else you're going to have to make the decision whether or not to do it. But definitely, even in the middle stages, you can talk. In early stages, you can talk to a speech and language pathologist so they can explain what to expect with a feeding tube and what it would be like. So and then some people, if you're asking a little bit more specific questions, you may need to email me. I can't go into some of the depth on this webinar, so you can always email me or visit hdsa.org/SW and find your local social worker, because I just can't answer some of these questions in that depth. And one thing also I want to just show you, because I did mention it, if you go to Living with HD Community Services, I had mentioned other resources over here. So this is the map you'll see under social workers, support groups, etc. Here is our HDSA online resource database. And this is, again, for informational purposes only. We don't endorse any one particular organization, but it does have a lot of really good resources that are more nationwide, that are things that you may want to consider. And definitely a lot of really great information. Any other questions? All right, well, if you think of any questions, please feel free to contact me. Again, my information is over here at smeyer@hdsa.org. My phone number is 888-HDSA-506, and that's my direct line. And again, if I'm not there, if I'm on vacation, you can always, another social worker will respond within 24 hours or 1 business day. Thank you so much for taking part, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.